Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. Happy Halloween. I hope you had a very scary and safe day out there. In today's video, I thought it would be fun to take a haunted hayride together to places where people lived with the dead. Yes, you heard me right. Lived with the dead. I have a few stories to share with you where people you would never suspect, your neighbor, your coworker, your friend, went home every day to a dead person in their home. Crazy, you say? Maybe, maybe not. 'Cause you never know if they're really dead. And there's always that chance that they'll come back to life. Don't believe me? I have a story about that too. I told you before, I have a story for everything. You had no clue what you were signing up for when you joined my channel. But today, you'll get a glimpse. A really good one. So climb aboard and find a comfy seat. I brought blankets and hot cocoa to keep you warm. And if you promise not to tell YouTube, I'll pass around something with a little kick to spike it with. But only if you promise not to tell. About the liquor, about the locations, and about what you learned. 'Cause when you live with the dead, you don't want the world to know. You just want to live your life, be treated like anyone else. Maybe open a motel along a highway somewhere, be nice to people, and maybe make some new friends along the way. As long as mother approves. Especially if you're a boy. 'Cause a boy's best friend is his mother, you know. It's always his mother. In the spirit of Halloween, we're going to go back in time and start at a location in Compton, California in 2011 where two teenagers in love, 15-year-old Cynthia Alvarez and her 16-year-old boyfriend Giovanni Gallardo, murdered Cynthia's parents because they didn't approve of their relationship, as you do. I don't know when parents are going to learn, but anyway. The story goes that Cynthia and Giovanni met at Compton High School and fell hard for each other. Cynthia claimed everything was amazing in the beginning. She said Giovanni gave her all the love her parents never did. She was so happy. But, after a while, Giovanni started to show a darker side to her. She said he started physically abusing her, drugging her, and threatening her with knives and guns. But it was still better than the treatment she received from her mother Gloria and stepfather Lara, who she says beat her with a studded belt, treated her like a slave around the house, and sexually abused her. She decided to tell Giovanni that she was being abused by her stepfather, and he suggested they kill him. Like a good boyfriend who cares should. Then, as if it wasn't just as bad, at home, when Cynthia's mother learned that Giovanni was abusing her, she told Cynthia that she wanted her to break up with him. Pesky mothers, sticking their noses in everything. Well, when Giovanni learned about this, he decided she needed to go too. I mean, really, she asked for it. What was the guy supposed to do? So, they began planning her parents' murders. And if this doesn't scream romantic to you, you need to get yourself checked. Just saying. Giovanni made Cynthia her very own murder kit, including a baseball bat, rubber gloves, and rubbing alcohol to help clean up the scene. Aw, so sweet. Young love. Don't act like you're not jealous. I bet no one ever made you your own personal murder kit. Anyway, adorable. So, they waited for the perfect time to strike. But when it finally came, Cynthia chickened out and said she couldn't do it. Seriously? Giovanni couldn't believe it. Here he went out of his way to express his love to her by making her own personal murder kit, and she didn't even appreciate it. Ungrateful bitch. That would have pissed me off. Which it did Giovanni, because then he had to do it all himself. And trust me, I understand how he felt. If I don't do every damn thing myself, it doesn't get done. Same with you? Yeah, I bet. So, Cynthia stepped outside while Giovanni attacked her mother and strangled her to death. She said she heard her mother scream for her, but By the time she stepped back in the house, it was too late. She was already dead. So, they dragged her body into the bedroom to hide it until Cynthia's stepfather came home, but not before removing her gold bracelet from her wrist. Then, because they had nothing else to do while they waited for him to get home, they watched TV. When her stepdad finally came home, Giovanni was waiting for him behind the door and smashed him in the face 2 times with the baseball bat that he put in Cynthia's kit that she didn't appreciate. But that didn't take her stepdad down, and he started fighting back. When Giovanni asked Cynthia for help, she hit him in the stomach with the bat, then went and got a knife to give to Giovanni. Again, making him do everything. So he stabbed him, killing him. Chick pisses me off. Here her boyfriend's trying to do all this for her, and she can't even help him. But that's always the way, isn't it? Those are always the chicks that get the boyfriends, the ones who don't appreciate them. Now someone like me, who would appreciate the heck out of everything he did for me? Yeah, I'm single. Go figure. Anyway, after the murders, Giovanni loaded the bodies into the back of her mother's Jeep, which she probably didn't help with either, and drove to a vacant lot in Long Beach, where Giovanni dug a grave for the bodies. But it wasn't big enough for both, because he probably got tired of digging, and Cynthia wasn't going to help. So, they buried her stepdad and left her mother in the back of her Jeep. What an entitled little princess this chick thinks she is. It kills me. Now, the murders occurred on October 12th, so over the next few days, they sold off her mother's jewelry and stripped her stepdad's trucks for car parts to sell too. They spent the cash they made on beer, snacks, and Halloween decorations for a Halloween party they were planning for their friends. Court documents say they shopped for everything for the party, including all the Halloween decorations, while Cynthia's mother's body rotted in the back of her Jeep. I guess driving around doing errands with her dead mother in the car was becoming less and less convenient as the days passed, so eventually they buried her decaying body in a vacant lot in Norwalk. 3 days later, Gloria's body was spotted by a jogger, but it was in such an advanced stage of decomposition, police were unable to identify her. When Cynthia's stepdad's work started looking for him when he didn't show up, police were called to the home to investigate. They said at first they thought there had been a burglary because the house was in such disarray. But then they came across a notebook containing the murder plans and notes written back and forth from Cynthia and Giovanni discussing the murders. Police brought the two in for questioning, starting with Cynthia first, and she spilled everything. She told them that Giovanni committed the murders, but she didn't tell them it was only because she wouldn't help. Of course she didn't. So, when they got a hold of Giovanni and told him that Cynthia implicated him in the murders, he tried to cover for her, even though she sold him down the river. Now that's love right there, people. You should be taking notes for your own relationships. Here, I'll pass around notepads and pens. You can never get enough good relationship advice. He did end up telling them that she helped plan the murders, though, since that was the only thing her lazy ass really did. But he told her they did it because she wanted to be with him. They did it so they could be together. Aw, how romantic. Relationship goals, people. Relationship goals. Except, during Cynthia's trial, she dealt Giovanni one final blow by testifying that she was abused by both of her parents and Giovanni, and that Giovanni was responsible for both murders. She said she couldn't stop him because she feared him, and that she was the only true victim in all of it. Wow. Smack. Now, if that doesn't tell you that she didn't deserve that boy and everything he did for her, I don't know what to tell you. But the jury saw how ungrateful she was for his love and took no pity on her. They convicted her princess ass of murder, and she's now serving a life sentence. Giovanni was convicted of murder also and is serving a life sentence as well. What a dumbass, huh? Okay. A quick pass by the Hollywood sign. then it's time to leave my beloved Cali and head to Louisiana, where police believe a man lived with the body of his dead girlfriend for almost a month in September and October of 2020. And no, I'm sorry, we don't have time to stop in Vegas on the way. We have a lot of death houses to visit. I'm sure we'll be visiting Vegas at some point soon, since people are going crazy everywhere. It's already getting late as it is, but don't worry. If we have to stop for the night, there's a nice quiet little motel tucked away on the side of a highway where we can stop for the night. Hardly anyone ever goes there, so we'll pretty much have the place to ourselves. I know the man who runs it, and he'll make sure we have everything we need. Just don't take a shower. It's a long story. Just don't shower, and you'll be fine. I got you. Okay, on to Louisiana, where news reports say Darrenisha Williams of Hammond, Louisiana, went missing on September 5th of 2020. Police reports say she was last seen at a family gathering with her boyfriend when they left together to go to a convenience store, and her family said they never returned. When they couldn't reach her after the party, they contacted police. Police began searching for Williams' boyfriend, 55-year-old Randy Skinner, but they were unable to locate him either. Then, almost a month after Williams disappeared, on October 2nd, police say they received a call from a distressed man who confessed to a murder at his home. When police arrived at his home, they found the body of Randy Skinner, who died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and the decomposing body of Darrenisha Williams. After receiving the autopsy results on Williams, police say they believe Skinner strangled her to death on or around the time of her disappearance a month before, and he had kept her body in his home until his suicide. Williams' mother told police her 21-year-old daughter had broken up with Skinner prior to her disappearance and that the two had a bumpy relationship. She said she called Skinner every day after her daughter went missing, and every day he gave her a different story. She said the day he killed himself, she called him and told him she knew something was wrong because her daughter would have contacted her by then. Sad, huh? Having to find out her daughter was in her murderer's home all that time? Unreal. Okay, y'all having fun? Anybody want more hot cocoa? No? What do you mean you just want the liquor at this point? You haven't seen nothing yet. We still have a long way to go. You need to keep your wits about you if you want to get your money's worth. Okay, I'll give you some more, and you can sleep it off on the way to our next stop in Nashville, Tennessee, where police say 4 siblings lived with the body of their deceased mother for at least a year. Okay, I'll give you a double. On to Nashville. And stop throwing so much hay. I don't need a ticket for littering. Ready? Police in Nashville say they were contacted in October of 2020 to evict a family from their apartment because they had fallen behind in their rent. Now, this story is a bit on the sad side, just so you know. The officer who responded to the home to evict the family said he found the badly decomposed body of their mother on a bed in an upstairs bedroom, covered in a pile of clothing. When he questioned the 4 siblings about how long their mother had been deceased, they told him they didn't know. The officer then realized that all 4 of the siblings were intellectually challenged. He says he asked them why they didn't tell anyone their mother died, and this breaks my heart. And they told him they were obeying their mother's wishes to be left laying there, undisturbed, no matter what. The officer said he thinks they knew better, but that they were honoring her wishes, even though he doesn't understand how they could live with her decomposing body for such an extensive length of time. Their mother, 56-year-old LaRonda Jolly's brother, said the last time he knowingly spoke with her was well over 2 years ago. He said he'd go to visit her, but that he'd get turned away because he was told she was either not home or sleeping. He said now that he knows she's been dead for some time, he knows that every time he called to talk to her, one of the girls would impersonate her on the phone so he wouldn't suspect anything. He claims he was lied to so much he can't believe anything his nieces and nephews tell him now about his sister's death. Police say her body was in such an advanced stage of decomposition that they may never be able to determine a cause of death, but that they don't suspect foul play at this point. They also say that no charges will be brought against the siblings in this case, whose housing needs are now being met by a local ministry. Jolly's brother hopes to learn someday about what happened to his sister, but knows at this point it is very unlikely that he ever will. So awful and sad, isn't it? God, I don't know how they lived like that. I feel so bad for them if they were just trying to honor their mother's wishes. Okay, for the next 3 stories, we need to travel all the way to Michigan, where there's always something weird and creepy happening. One thing I can say about my state, it never disappoints. As a matter of fact, I could share a number of stories about living with the dead in Michigan, but it's already late and Halloween is almost over, so I'll narrow it down and bring our Haunted Hayride to an end soon. Besides, you're all looking pretty tipsy, and my butt's starting to hurt from sitting in this wagon. So, off to Mish we go. But for this next story, we have to go back in time again to 2016, when police in a small town called Hazel Park say a man died in his home but went undiscovered for months because the woman he lived with was a hoarder. According to police reports, city code enforcement officers were notified of a possible hoarding situation and a stench that was coming from a home on Milton Street, so they paid a visit to the home. The woman who lived in the home refused to allow them entry, but they noticed the terrible conditions in the home and the terrible stench. So, they served her with a notice that if she wouldn't allow them into her home, they would have no option but to obtain a search warrant. According to news reports, the woman went to the city to complain that she was being harassed by code enforcement when a city employee noticed a large, oozing sore on her leg that appeared to have maggots inside. She asked the woman if she needed help getting medical attention for her condition, but the woman refused. Police say they obtained a search warrant for the woman's home and found horrific hoarding conditions inside. For their protection, Hazel Park Police brought in a hazmat team to go through the home, and that is when they found the mummified body of 76-year-old Donald Smith. Reports say Smith's body was removed from the home, along with 8 cats, and the woman who lived there was taken to the hospital for treatment. Police say the home was filled with waist-high debris and feces, so they're not sure whether the woman was aware that the man was deceased in the home or not. After speaking with neighbors, police were informed that Smith had not been seen by any of them for months, and many said they didn't know whether he even still lived there or not. The coroner's report said that there was no foul play suspected, but that Smith's body was in such a mummified state from lying dead for months. The woman was not charged for not reporting his death, although police do not understand why she didn't. Completely disgusting, huh? Sounds like they needed to just level that house and start over. I mean, if you don't mind living with dead people and maggots in your open sores, then Lord knows what else you got going on in that house. Those poor cats. Our next death house is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from this one. Just 2 miles north of Detroit, on West Coy Avenue, where police say a man slept with his wife's dead body after he murdered her for over a week. Hazel Park Police said they received a call in March of 2020 asking them to check on a couple because their family was not able to reach them. Police say when they arrived at the home, the couple was in bed sleeping. They say they woke 45-year-old Jeff Sherwood, but were unable to wake his 64-year-old wife, Susan Klepsch. Upon further examination, police realized Susan was deceased. Police suspected foul play, so Sherwood was arrested. During his interrogation, he admitted to striking, kicking, and strangling his wife to death because they had been arguing and she accused him of cheating on her. He said he took enough aspirin to kill himself, but when he didn't die, he decided to keep his wife there to sleep with him at night. You know, 'cause sleeping alone sucks. The coroner's report stated that his wife died from blunt force trauma to her head and neck, and her death was ruled a homicide. Sherwood was charged with first-degree murder and faces up to life in prison if convicted. Now, before you get all judgmental about him keeping his dead wife around to sleep with at night, it's pretty damn cold in Michigan in March, so having someone to come home to and cuddle up with at night is very tempting. If you think you would never consider doing something like he did, then you've never been to Michigan in March. Just saying. And while you're up there on your soapbox, judging the people in these stories for living with their dead loved ones, let me clue you in on something. They may have just been waiting to see if they'd come back. You never know. Not possible, you say? Well, aren't we all high and mighty? Maybe you just need to be knocked down a notch or two, and I'm just the person to help you with that. Before we end our journey together, I want to make just one more stop in Detroit, at a funeral home, where you are welcome to argue that the dead can't come back to life, with a funeral director who will beg to differ with you because he's witnessed it himself. He'll explain it to you, the whole tragic story about a 20-year-old woman who was pronounced dead by paramedics on August 23rd of 2020, but was later found breathing after being transported to his funeral home for embalming and spending 2 hours in a body bag. According to police reports, the woman's mother called 911 because her daughter had gone into cardiac arrest at their home. Paramedics performed CPR and life-saving measures for 30 minutes on the woman, but claimed she showed no signs of life, so she was pronounced dead shortly after. The family contacted the funeral home, and the body of the woman was transported there. The woman's mother then said she received a phone call 4 hours later from the funeral home, informing her that her daughter was still breathing and that she was being transported to a Detroit hospital for examination. She was completely shocked. According to the Detroit News, the woman's godmother, who works in the medical field, was present at the time her goddaughter was pronounced dead, and she argued with paramedics that the woman was barely breathing but still alive. Paramedics insisted that she was dead and that the movements made by her chest were involuntary. After consulting with a doctor at a local hospital over the phone, the paramedics pronounced the woman dead. But when the workers at the funeral home went to remove her from her body bag, they found her eyes open and signs that she was breathing. Thank God, right? Workers say they were preparing to embalm her body. They called 911, and the woman was found to be alive but in critical condition. So, there you have it. Shall I help you down from your soapbox now? No? You'd rather stay there? Okay. To each his own. But don't say I never told you, 'cause now you know. Well, I had fun on our hayride, and I hope you did too. Sorry we got back so late and it's not Halloween anymore, but at least we didn't have to stop for the night and start again tomorrow. Then we would have been way behind schedule. We really need to plan to stop next trip, though. My friend was a little disappointed we didn't stay at his motel this time, so I told him we'd make it up to him next time. He really is a nice guy. I think you'll like him. And he said his mother is really looking forward to meeting all of you. She sounds so nice, doesn't she? Thank you all so much for taking this journey with me. I really hope you enjoyed it. You should probably shake all the hay out of your hair, though, before I see you on my next video.